Hey, what's going on out there, YouTube? I'm Jason with Upshifting Adventures. Thanks for tuning into the channel. I just got home yesterday from a 15-day, 4,000 mile, 6-state solo adventure, and man, I got to tell you, it was epic. I had such a great time. I was all by myself for all of it except for a 3-day stint where I stopped in the Mojave Desert for the Revzilla's Get On Adventure Fest and spent a few days out there with a couple of friends riding in the desert. But for the most part, it was a solo adventure, a true solo adventure. I was by myself almost the entire time. And it was just really great. So I left here in Denver on a Monday morning, and I made my way down to Madrid, New Mexico, spent the night there at a campsite, and then the following morning went down to Bisbee, Arizona, when I stayed at the Jonquil Motel, which is owned by Sterling Noreen and Eva Rupert. And if you're in the adventure riding scene, you've probably heard of the Jonquil Motel, and if you haven't heard of that, you've almost certainly heard of their owners. They're pretty big names in the industry. Sterling is actually the guy that films all of the BDR movies, and they are great and gracious hosts down there. The Jonquil Motel, it was made in I think 1923 or 33 or something like that. They bought it a few years ago, and they really cater to the moto industry, and it's just a great place to stay if you're ever down there. I really suggest it. So anyhow, I got up the next morning and I made my way to Sierra Vista on the border of Mexico and America, and I started the Arizona BDR. And that was really a great trip. I was a little apprehensive about it because I was by myself. I didn't want to break my bike or me because, you know, it's a bad scene when you're out there in the middle of nowhere and you get hurt or you break something on the bike. And as it were, I did not come across one other motorcyclist on the BDR for that entire 3 days that I was doing it. But it was really awesome. You know, I started out at the Coronado National Memorial, went up over Montezuma Pass, down to the actual border fence and rode along the fence there for about a mile or so before we turned north. Headed north up into the Empire Ranch, which is a working cattle ranch in Arizona. And a funny story, I was going to take the easy alternate route from Sonoy to up to Highway 10 and then across east to Benson, again, because I didn't want to get hurt or break the bike, but I made a wrong turn somewhere and I ended up on the expert section, or the non-easy section, as it were. And it was really cool, though. I had a great time. Really learned some stuff about how to work this bike on rocks and unstable ground and stuff like that. So that being said, I want to talk about this BMW GS. Man, I can say quite certainly that I don't think there is any other motorcycle that could have done what I did for 15 days straight, the terrain I rode it over. I didn't have a single glitch, except for at one point I was trying to downshift into first and my gear shift lever wouldn't kick into first. I stopped and I realized that the bolt from my center stand had rattled loose because I was going over so much washboard road and bumpy road and all that stuff. It just vibrated loose. Fortunately, I caught it in time, screwed it back in, and never had another single problem with the bike for the rest of that, the trip. And I'm telling you, I put this bike through hell, starting in Arizona, riding on the single track, basically, or kind of 2-track ATV roads in Empire Ranch. I got it stuck in a river. I mean, I had to cross the river. There was no way around it, but the bottom was mush, and I got about 2/3 of the way through, and the bike just went boom and sank all the way in. Sank in so deep that when I got off the bike, it stood up by itself. And that was an interesting time trying to pick the back of the bike up, move it over to some more solid stuff, get on the gas a little bit, and it would just sink again. I was very fortunate that after about an hour of toiling with this 700-pound beast, somebody came by on a razor and they had a winch and helped pull me out of the water, and that was really cool. So yeah, from there, you know, I went through the entire BDR. And after that was over, I stayed with a family member in Page for a night, Page, Arizona. And then I made my way across Utah into St. George, where I stayed at a campsite for 2 nights there. And that was really fantastic. While I was there, I took a trip into Zion National Park. Beautiful. I rode through the whole park. It was fantastic. The bike just handled everything like a champ. It was perfect. I couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for something to go wrong. Nothing ever went wrong. So after a couple of days in St. George, I made my way went to Valley of Fire outside of Las Vegas on my way to Needles, California, where I was going to stay at a KOA for the night there. On my way to Valley of Fire, I saw a big American flag flying up on top of a hill with nothing else around. It was just a flag. The road to it was a very steep and very rocky, crappy road. And I thought, well, I can make it. I've been doing the BDR for the last 3-4 days. I can do this. I got about halfway up it, hit a rock. The front tire went up in the air. The back tire slid off of another rock. The bike pitched 90 degrees, hit the ground, and then fell low side down the hill. And there was loose rock everywhere. It was killing me trying to get the bike standing upright again. Fortunately, some people came by again with side-by-sides with a winch, and they helped me out. I've been very fortunate, very lucky that all these kind of spots I've gotten myself into, somebody has always come along to help me out, and I'm super, super grateful for that. But at any rate, after I got out of that jam, I went through Valley of Fire, headed over to Needles, spent the night there. The next morning, I got up and I drove to my aunt's house, who lives in the LA area. And while I was there, I took a day to go explore the beach. I rode through Topanga Canyon over to Malibu. I rode north to Santa Barbara, came back down, went into Mulholland Canyon. Mulholland Canyon is just phenomenal. If you get a chance to ride that way, I would highly suggest you do it. And this big son of a gun here, it's all twisty canyon roads. This thing, I was leaning off of it, pulling it around corners, downshifting hard on the brakes into corners. I can't believe how well this big beast handles the twisties. It was really fantastic. So after doing that for a day, I made my way to the Get On Adventure Fest in Mojave, California, at the Rawhide Training Facility. Get On is sponsored by Revzilla. If you weren't aware of it, they have one in Mojave, and then they have one in South Dakota every year. And another great thing about this bike, so it was hot, it was like 98 degrees. You can't ride in the desert without riding sand, and sand has always crushed me on this big bike. I can't ride it in sand. We were out there riding, and I just got tired of struggling. So one time I just decided to do what everybody says. Just got on the gas when I hit the sand. I was a little apprehensive at first, but as I realized that the front tire was just kind of floating over the sand and not digging in, I got very comfortable with it and kind of overcame my inability to ride sand while I was out there. So that was awesome. Had a great time at the Get On Adventure Fest. If you have a chance to go to that, would definitely do that. And then, okay, so that finished up. It was time to go home. I made my way to St. George, Utah that day from Mojave. It was about a 350-mile drive, I think. Spent the night and then got up in the morning. I was going to go to Rifle, Colorado, which was about another 350 miles, which would have been halfway between St. George and my house. But I got to Rifle and I felt so good. I just pushed all the way through to Denver, and no joke, that was a 650-mile day on day 15 of riding every single day for basically, 2 weeks. This machine handled it so well. I can't think of another bike I could do 650 miles. Maybe, an RT or a big bagger Harley or something like that. But it couldn't have done all the other stuff that I did. So this bike, if I wasn't in love with my GS prior to this trip, I certainly am now. This bike has done everything I asked of it, and it did it with style, without a complaint. Just love it. It's been so great. So if you're not sure about whether the GS is the bike for you, and you're an adventure rider, if my story helps at all, I would say that this bike is unbeatable. I don't like the telelever front end on the BMW GSs. I just don't like it. I feel like when I'm hitting rocks, it feels like it's going to shake apart on me. And yes, the front end does want to wash out on dirt and stuff. You have to learn how to ride this bike the way it wants to be ridden. You can't ride it like any other bike with regular, forks on the front, like the KTM Adventure bike or the Honda Africa Twin, bikes like that, or the smaller bikes for certain. This bike, you cannot, if you pick a fight with it, you're going to lose. You have to learn to dance with the bike the way it wants to dance. That sounds cliche, I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. But I can tell you, when I was out in Mojave, I was doing 50, 55 miles an hour through the sand, and it felt so comfortable. Luckily, I didn't eat it. That probably wouldn't have felt so comfortable, but I did. I made it, and it was great. On that note, my Giant Loop luggage. I have here the Giant Loop Round the World panniers. They are so great. With all the shit that I went through, pardon my language, and all the times I dropped the bike and everything else, not a scratch. None of my gear got messed up. Even when I dunked this thing in the river, halfway up the saddlebags, nothing. Everything was dry. It worked perfectly. The Diablo tank bag, also awesome. Especially, I got to show you this. When you go to the gas station, instead of having to take your tank bag off, you just unzip it and rotate it out of the way. How cool is that, man? And then you have access to your filler cap. So really impressed with the Giant Loop gear. I got my Possibles pouches here mounted on my crash bars with the pronghorn rubber straps. Premium. These things are 100% waterproof. You don't need a waterproof bag inside of them. They're just roll top bags, and they're completely waterproof. I've got my tool kits and stuff like that, tire repair stuff and all that in there. So big thanks to Giant Loop for the gear. They make awesome stuff, and they provided me with a great peace of mind while I was on my trip. So at any rate, thanks for watching the video. I hope I was able to convince somebody about the worthiness of the GS as an adventure bike. It's not just an over-the-road cruiser. It is fully capable in all terrain. I had it on rocky ascents and descents. I had it in sand. I had it in mud. I had it on dirt roads, washboard roads for hundreds of miles. And it was just great. I really did enjoy the trip. So I hope you got something out of this video. If you liked it, please smash that like button for me. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. It would mean a lot to me. I make these videos strictly for people who want to see them. I don't make money. This is not my career. I just do it because I love to spread the word about motorcycling. Motorcycling is my passion, and I want to inspire everybody to ride motorcycles. So that being said, thanks a bunch, and I really hope to see you out on the road at some point. Take care now.